Daniel Dan Brown is an American author of thriller fiction who is best known for the 2003 best-selling novel The Da Vinci Code. Brown's novels are treasure hunts set in a 24-hour period, and feature the recurring themes of cryptography, keys, symbols, codes, and conspiracy theories. His books have been translated into 52 languages, and as of 2012, sold over 200 million copies. Two of them, The Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, have been adapted into films. Brown's novels that feature the lead character Robert Langdon also include historical themes and Christianity as motifs, and as a result, have generated controversy. Brown states on his website that his books are not anti-Christian, though he is on a constant spiritual journey himself, and says that his book The Da Vinci Code is simply an entertaining story that promotes spiritual discussion and debate, and suggests that the book may be used as a positive catalyst for introspection and exploration of our faith. At 200 million books sold, he is one of the highest-selling authors of all time, and with only 6 books, he has achieved these sales writing fewer books than anyone above him on the list. The Robert Langdon series is currently the 7th highest-selling series of all time. Early life: Dan Brown was born and raised in Exeter, New Hampshire, United States, the eldest of 3 children. He grew up on the campus of Phillips Exeter Academy, where his father Richard G. Brown was a teacher of mathematics and wrote textbooks from 1968 until his retirement in 1997. Both of Brown's parents are also singers and musicians, having served as church choir masters, with his mother also serving as church organist. Brown was raised an Episcopalian, but has stated he had drifted away from Christianity before finding a renewed interest in religion. Brown's interest in secrets and puzzles stems from their presence in his household as a child, where codes and ciphers were the linchpin tying together the mathematics, music and languages in which his parents worked. The young Brown spent hours working out anagrams and crossword puzzles, and he and his siblings participated in elaborate treasure hunts devised by their father on birthdays and holidays. On Christmas, for example, Brown and his siblings did not find gifts under the tree, but followed a treasure map with codes and clues throughout their house and even around town to find the gifts. Brown's relationship with his father inspired that of Sophie Neva and Jacques Saunier in The Da Vinci Code, and Chapter 23 of that novel was inspired by one of his childhood treasure hunts. After graduating from Phillips Exeter, Brown attended Amherst College, where he was a member of Psi Upsilon fraternity. He played squash, sang in the Amherst Glee Club, and was a writing student of visiting novelist Alan Lelchuk. Brown spent the 1985 school year abroad in Seville, Spain, where he was enrolled in an art history course at the University of Seville. Brown graduated from Amherst in 1986. Songwriter and pop singer, after graduating from Amherst, Brown dabbled with a musical career, creating effects with a synthesizer, and self-producing a children's cassette entitled Synth Animals, which included a collection of tracks such as Happy Frogs, and Suzuki Elephants. It sold a few hundred copies. He then formed his own record company called Dalliance, and in 1990 self-published a CD entitled Perspective, targeted at the adult market, which also sold a few hundred copies. In 1991 he moved to Hollywood to pursue a career as singer-songwriter and pianist. To support himself, he taught classes at Beverly Hills Preparatory School. He also joined the National Academy of Songwriters, and participated in many of its events. It was there that he met Blythe Newlin, a woman 12 years his senior, who was the Academy's Director of Artist Development. Though it was not officially part of her job, she took on the seemingly unusual task of helping to promote Brown's projects. She wrote press releases, set up promotional events, and put him in contact with people who could be helpful to his career. She and Brown also developed a personal relationship, though this was not known to all of their associates until 1993, when Brown moved back to New Hampshire, and it was learned that Newlin would accompany him. They married in 1997, at Pea Porridge Pond, near Conway, New Hampshire. In 1993 Brown released the CD Dan Brown, which included songs such as 976 Love, and If You Believe in Love. In 1994 Brown released a CD titled Angels and Demons. Its artwork was the same ambigram by artist John Langdon which he later used for the novel Angels and Demons. The liner notes also again credited his wife for her involvement, thanking her for being my tireless co-writer, co-producer, second engineer, significant other, and therapist. The CD included songs such as Here in These Fields, and the religious ballad All I Believe. Brown and his wife moved to his hometown in New Hampshire in 1993. Brown became an English teacher at his alma mater Phillips Exeter, and gave Spanish classes to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at Lincoln Ackerman School, a small school for Euro 8th grade with about 250 students, in Hampton Falls. Writing career. While on vacation in Tahiti in 1993, Brown read Sidney Sheldon's novel The Doomsday Conspiracy, and was inspired to become a writer of thrillers. He started work on Digital Fortress, setting much of it in Seville, where he had studied in 1985. He also co-wrote a humor book with his wife, 187 Men to Avoid, a survival guide for the romantically frustrated woman, under the pseudonym Danielle Brown. The book's author profile reads, Danielle Brown currently lives in New England, teaching school, writing books, and avoiding men. The copyright is attributed to Dan Brown. In 1996 Brown quit teaching to become a full-time writer. Digital Fortress was published in 1998. His wife, Blythe, did much of the book's promotion, writing press releases, booking Brown on talk shows, and setting up press interviews. A few months later, Brown and his wife released The Bald Book, another humor book. It was officially credited to his wife, though a representative of the publisher said that it was primarily written by Brown. Brown subsequently wrote Angels and Demons and Deception Point, released in 2000 and 2001 respectively, the former of which was the first to feature the lead character, Harvard symbology expert Robert Langdon. Brown's first 3 novels had little success, with fewer than 10,000 copies in each of their first printings. His 4th novel, The Da Vinci Code, became a bestseller, going to the top of the New York Times bestseller list during its first week of release in 2003. It is now credited with being one of the most popular books of all time, with 81 million copies sold worldwide as of 2009. Its success has helped push sales of Brown's earlier books. In 2004 all 4 of his novels were on the New York Times list in the same week, and in 2005 he made Time magazine's list of the 100 most influential people of the year. Forbes magazine placed Brown at number 12 on their 2005 Celebrity 100 list, and estimated his annual income at $76.5 million. The Times estimated his income from Da Vinci Code sales as $250 million. Brown's 3rd novel featuring Robert Langdon, The Lost Symbol, was released on September 15, 2009. According to the publisher, on its first day the book sold over 1 million in hardcover and e-book versions in the US, the UK and Canada, prompting the printing of 600,000 hardcover copies in addition to the 5 million first printing. The story takes place in Washington, D.C. over a period of 12 hours, and features the Freemasons. Brown's promotional website states that puzzles hidden in the book jacket of the Da Vinci Code, including 2 references to the crypto sculpture at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, give hints about the sequel. This repeats a theme from some of Brown's earlier work. Brown's 4th novel featuring Robert Langdon, Inferno, is a mystery thriller novel released on May 14, 2013, by Doubleday. It immediately became a bestseller. In a 2006 interview, Brown has stated that he had ideas for about 12 future books featuring Robert Langdon. Characters in Brown's books are often named after real people in his life. Robert Langdon is named after John Langdon, the artist who created the ambigrams used for the Angels and Demons CD and novel. Camerlengo Carlo Ventresca is named after Honoré Claire Day cartoonist friend Carlo Ventresca. In the Vatican archives, Langdon recalls a wedding of 2 people named Dick and Connie, which are the names of his parents. Robert Langdon's editor Jonas Falkman is named after Brown's real-life editor Jason Kaufman. Brown also said that characters were based on a New Hampshire librarian, and a French teacher at Exeter, André Binet. Cardinal Aldo Baggio, in Angels and Demons, is named after Aldo Baggia, instructor of modern languages at Phillips Exeter Academy. In interviews, Brown has said that his wife is an art historian and painter. When they met, she was the director of artistic development at the National Academy for Songwriters in Los Angeles. During the 2006 lawsuit over alleged copyright infringement in the Da Vinci Code, information was introduced at trial that showed that Blythe did research for the book. In one article, she was described as chief researcher. Influences and habits. In addition to Sidney Sheldon, Dan Brown has been quite vocal about a number of other literary influences who have inspired his writing. He has named his 6 favorite literary works as Gar Paragraph Del, Escher, Bark by Douglas Hofstadter, Code Ciphers and Other Cryptic and Clandestine Communication by Frederick Rickson, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Wordplay, Ambigrams and Reflections on the Art of Ambigrams by John Langdon, Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing and The Puzzle Palace by James Bamford. Commenting on Much Ado About Nothing, Brown says, "I didn't understand how funny this play Much Ado About Nothing truly was until I became an English teacher and had to teach it. There is no wittier dialogue anywhere." Speaking of Robert Ludlum's The Bourne trilogy, he states, "Ludlum's early books are complex, smart, and yet still move at a lightning pace. This era's got me interested in the genre of big concept, international thrillers." His other favorite books include Cain and Abel by Jeffrey Archer, Plum Island by Nelson DeMille and The Elements of Style by Strunk and White. Recurring elements that Brown prefers to incorporate into his novels include a simple hero pulled out of their familiar setting and thrust into a new one with which they are unfamiliar, strong female characters, travel to interesting locations, and a 24-hour time frame in which the story takes place. Because of the research-intensive nature of his novels, Brown can spend up to 2 years writing them. To remain focused on such projects, Brown ensures that when he chooses a theme for the novel, and its subject, that they be those that can hold his interest. In Brown's view, the ideal topic does not have an easily defined right or wrong view, but presents a moral gray area that can lend itself to debate. Because his favorite subjects include codes, puzzles, treasure hunts, secretive organizations and academic lectures on obscure topics, he tends to incorporate those into his novels. Because Brown considers writing to be a discipline that requires constant practice, he has developed a routine to maintain his abilities. He wakes up at 4 a.m. when there are no distractions and when he feels most productive, in order to give symbolic importance to the first order of business each day. He keeps an antique hourglass on his desk, so that he can stop briefly every hour to do push-ups, sit-ups and stretching exercises to keep his blood flowing. Brown does his writing in his loft. He has also told fans that he uses inversion therapy to help with writer's block. He uses gravity boots and says, "Hanging upside down seems to help me solve plot challenges by shifting my entire perspective." Film adaptations. In 2006, Brown's novel The Da Vinci Code was released as a film by Columbia Pictures, with director Ron Howard. The film starred Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon, Audrey Tautou as Sophie Neva and Sir Ian McKellen as Sally Teabing. It was much anticipated and served to launch the 2006 Cannes Film Festival, though it received overall poor reviews. It currently has a 24% rating at the film review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, derived from 165 negative reviews of the 214 counted. It was later listed as one of the worst films of 2006 on Ebert and Roper, but also the second highest grossing film of the year, pulling in $750 million USD worldwide. Brown was listed as one of the executive producers of the film The Da Vinci Code, and also created additional codes for the film. One of his songs, Fiano, which Brown wrote and performed, was listed as part of the film's soundtrack. In the film, Brown and his wife can be seen in the background of one of the early book signings scenes. Your next film, Angels and Demons, was released on May 15, 2009, with Howard and Hanks returning. It, too, garnered mostly negative reviews, though critics were kinder to it than to its predecessor. As of July 2013, it has a 37% meter rating at Rotten Tomatoes. Filmmakers expressed interest in adapting The Lost Symbol into a film as well. The screenplay is being written by Danny Strong, with pre-production expected to begin in 2013. Copyright infringement cases. In August 2005, author Louis Baudu unsuccessfully sued Brown for plagiarism, on the basis of claimed similarity between the Da Vinci Code and his novels, The Da Vinci Legacy and Daughter of God. Judge George Daniels said, in part, a reasonable average lay observer would not conclude that the Da Vinci Code is substantially similar to Daughter of God. In April 2006, Brown won a copyright infringement case brought by authors Michael Bagent and Richard Lee, who claimed that Brown stole ideas from their 1982 book Holy Blood Holy Grail for his 2003 novel The Da Vinci Code. It was in the book Holy Blood Holy Grail that Bagent, Lee, and co-author Henry Lincoln had advanced the theory that Jesus and Mary Magdalene married and had a child, and that the bloodline continues to this day. Brown even alluded to the two authors' names in his book. Lee Teabing, a lead character in both the novel and the film, uses Lee's name as the first name, and anagrammatically derives his last name from Bagent's. Mr. Justice Peter Smith found in Brown's favor in the case, and as a private amusement, embedded his own Smithy code in the written judgment. On March 28, 2007, Brown's publisher, Random House, won an appeal copyright infringement case. The Court of Appeal of England and Wales rejected the efforts from Bagent and Lee, who became liable for paying legal expenses of nearly $6 million. A contributing factor for the outcome of the case is that these authors presented their work as non-fiction, whereas fiction writers often draw upon non-fiction resources for content research. Charity work. In October 2004, Brown and his siblings donated $2.2 million to Phillips Exeter Academy in honor of their father, to set up the Richard G. Brown Technology Endowment to help provide computers and high-tech equipment for students in need. Brown and his wife Blythe are also supporters of the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. On April 14, 2011, Brown and his wife created the Dan 86 and Blythe Brown Scholarship Fund to celebrate his 25th reunion from Amherst College, a permanently endowed scholarship fund at the college whose income provides financial aid to students there, with preference for incoming students with an interest in writing. Criticism. Brown's prose style has been criticized as clumsy. Much criticism also centers on Brown's claim found in the preface to the Da Vinci Code that the novel is based on fact in relation to Opus Dei and the Priory of Sin, and that all descriptions of artwork, architecture, documents and secret rituals in the novel are accurate. In an interview with Matt Lauer on The Today Show in September 2009, Brown responded by saying, "I do something very intentional and specific in these books. And that is to blend fact and fiction in a very modern and efficient style, to tell a story. There are some people who understand what I do, and they sort of get on the train and go for a ride and have a great time, and there are other people who should probably just read somebody else." Bibliography, non-series books, Digital Fortress, Deception Point, Robert Langdon, Angels and Demons, The Da Vinci Code, The Lost Symbol, Inferno, Humor Writing, 187 Men to Avoid, A Survival Guide for the Romantically Frustrated Woman, The Bored Book, References. External links, Dan Brown official website, Dan Brown at the Internet Book List, works by or about Dan Brown in libraries, works by Dan Brown on Open Library at the Internet Archive.